This is the life. Uh-huh. Ah. I could get into this.
This is Koroba.
Oh, yeah. Koroba. Yeah.
Welcome. This recording is going to be about the silent commands in advanced positions. I have noticed, depending if somebody came out of gore or not, the older masters do use the silent commands in BDSM, especially the ones that were trained in gore. I've also noticed a lot of masters don't know the silent commands. I don't see them as much. Actually, I see them more out of gore by older masters than I do see them in gore. And I think it's because the masters are not being trained and neither are the girls. So let's go through these. These are cool. I think they're cool. It means I have been taught that the most effective thing you can do is to not use words. That is true in real life with children. It's very true in real life and Second Life in general. It's a lot cooler to do 2 snaps or 1 snap or whatever the symbol is and emote that than to sit there and say, come girl, or something like that. And it looks like you know your shit, basically. So let's go. Some important rules before we begin. First of all, emote first, then assume the collar position. If you don't know how to emote them, I've got another video specific to the commands, and they actually have the emotes in them as you go. But the rule is usually emote first, then assume the collar position. 2, emotes rule. If the collar position doesn't match exactly what you're emoting, the emotes prevail. Okay, does that make sense? I hope. I strongly suggest attending the basic positions class. Please watch the other video on basic position. It explains the emotes, shows each position. Okay, why are the silent commands? I prefer them more than verbal commands. They appear more neat, they look cooler, they look great, and the best train, it makes your master appear more important. Okay, it's in my opinion, but imagine the difference between barking a command and have it done silent. Now, snap fingers, 1 snap. If you're distant and however not a side, 1 snap means come. I've seen this done in BDSM, not so much in gore, but again, these are all gore commands. So let me show you why I say that I'm not blowing smoke. I snapped my fingers and beckoned that she might approach me. She rose to her feet and approached me backwards as I had taught her. Vagabonds of Gore, book 24, page 246. Now, by the way, walking backwards is not a gore thing. This particular master thought it'd be cool and have the girl walk backwards, just as an obedience thing. No complaining concerning book numbers and books. They will always be in the right book. Vagabonds of Gore is book 24. The page number will vary according to the edition you use. So if you do go in book 24 and go looking, unless you have a printed US copy, it may not be page 246, but I guarantee it's in there. So snapping once, she approaches. Much cooler. Okay? Now, heal. The heal command, I've heard masters say heal. I like this much better. Okay? When the free wishes you to heal him, he'll extend his left arm to his side and snap his fingers. 2 snaps is what healing is. Quote, I extend my hand, I snap my fingers. When I snap my fingers, she would rise to her feet and follow me, healing me like the sleek domestic beast she was to her master's lodge. One of the first things I taught a girl to do was to heal. Blood Brothers of Gore, page 8, book 18, page 108. So again, you'd extend your hand and snap twice. Most masters, I'll be honest, even though the kneeling is in the collars, The snaps, not so much. I suspect from what I'm reading that at one time there was a HUD to have the masters do this, but if it was, it's not around anymore. But from what I can tell, there probably was a HUD that dealt with this. But there isn't anymore. But my point is, usually what masters does, they'll say extending hand snaps twice. Stop. The girl knows immediately she's to follow behind. I like that better than shouting the word heel, which I've heard masters do, and very common in gore, by the way. Stand. The free extends the hand with the palm up, raise it up 1 hort, about an inch, by the way. There's a verbal command called vec. So let's look at that. I felt myself being rolled roughly on my back. Vec, Kajera, said a voice harshly. Vec, Kajera. It was not a patient voice. I looked up, startled, frightened. I cried out in pain. I felt the finger of his dagger beneath my chin. It hurt. It thrust up. I cried, rising up to my toes. Then I stood straight before him. I stood straighter than I ever stood in my life. Slave Girl Gore, Chapter 2. So the issue is you raise your hand, a hort, and you command vec. Now, this is one that's pretty cool. It should be commonly used. It's not. Tower. Tower, the silent command is 2 fingers pointing to the floor. I've actually seen this one used. So what you do is the master would say, puts out 2 fingers pointing to the floor. That's it. Let me show you the quote. I spread my fruit fingers of my hand gesture downward toward a place near the slave Kajera. Please go to tower. Actually, she can do that once I go ahead and do it. There she goes. That's tower. She will in a minute. Bingo. I placed my right hand gesturing downward to her place in the sands. Immediately she knelt there, her legs widely spread. There are many signals by which such behaviors can be commanded. In this particular signal, which is one of several from city to city, might have similar import. The downward motion of the hand indicates the girl is to kneel. The place where she is to kneel is indicated by the effect of pointing. So if you want her a few feet from you, you should point out. If you want her next to you, you say, fingers out, pointing downward below my feet. The spreading of the fingers indicates how she's to kneel. In this case, the position of the pleasure slaves. The kneel spread. Vagabonds of Gore, page 24, page 328. Nadu. Now, Nadu is a silent command. If you notice, if the fingers are not spread out, it's going to be tower. If the fingers are spread out, it's going to be Nadu. You get that, masters? If the fingers are together, pointing straight down, they're to do tower. The legs are not spread. That's tower. If the fingers are spread out, it's going to be Nadu, and that's the difference between tower and Nadu, the position of the fingers. Quote. And unfortunately, that last quote did not help that. So let's take care of that. Suddenly he slapped his fingers in a swift double gesture. A Korean master pointed a place in the dirt floor before him, almost simultaneously turning his hand, spreading the finger and index fingers pointing downward. See, they're spread out. I fled to him and knelt before him, my knees in the dirt, the position of a pleasure slave, my head down, trembling. That's on Captive of Gore, page 7, page 143. That last quote was not well suited to Tower, but that's okay. So it's going to be in a V, the other's 2 down. Now, the next one's going to be belly. We've discussed it. The slave's going to demonstrate it, but I'm going to tell you how to get there. There is a standard belly, but this belly is different. You spread eagle face down. The master will extend his hand with fingers widespread, palm to the floor. So he extends his hand, 2 fingers widespread, palm to the floor. Most of you have this. Luckily, my slave has this animation. Most of you have this animation missing from the collar. Remember that the emote prevails. So if you don't have the animation, do the emote. I'm pretty sure my slave does. Okay, quote. By the way, if you want these animations, if you go to my positions class, and it's in the oh blast, I forgot. But if you go to the thing that lists all the videos I have, and go to the one labeled slave, and then go to slave positions, you'll find a link that'll tell you where to go on Gore to get all these. There she goes. Look at that. I love that position. She looks so cute down there. Okay, here we go. I wonder if I can slap her ass while she's down there. Anyway, two gestures he did make in quick succession. The first indicates the left shoulder where I had been tucked, and the fascia would have made a disrobing loop. The second indicating spin. Whoa, is that the right one? Yes, it is. Oh, thank you. I was worried there for a minute. There had been a disrobing loop, and then second indicating fingers spread palms down on the floor. Instantly, I drew my tunic over my head, stripped myself before him, and turned about. I put myself to the belly, legs and arms spread wide open eagle, which is what? Witness of Gore, Book 26, page 144. I did not mention the disrobing loop. Two gestures you make in quick succession. The first indicating the left shoulder, where I'd been tunicked in that fashion. That would have been the disrobing loop. The second indicating, now we have no disrobing loop. And if you go to my tape on use of the collar, you'll learn how to disrobe her. Or she could do herself, but you could do it for her, depending if you want to use her collar or not. But that's in the teaching about collars. Um, okay, there that is. Tip. Here we go. Points to the floor, fingers together, palms flat. Next. Oh, the strip emote. Okay, good. We get to actually, I'm going to tell you that. Strip. This is the one they called the disrobing. Now, luckily she's on the floor so that I won't get booted out of YouTube. So when she strips, you won't see much. Otherwise, we're kicked out of YouTube forever. I tap on the shoulders where the disrobing loop is. It means to strip naked. Beware, don't break the position. If you're standing, remain standing. If kneeling, remain kneeling. Luckily, in her case, she's down on the floor so she can do the disrobe loop. So you tap on the left shoulder, and you know what they mean? In Roman garments, let me explain what's going on. In Roman garments, there was, if you've ever been to a toga party, on the top shoulder, on both sides, there's a little tie off where the sheet or the outfit is untied. So when you tap at the shoulder, you're basically pointing out where the loop is to untie your outfit. And it's more of a Norman borrowed from a lot of sources. So this is one time he's borrowing from the Romans. And so basically when you're pointing up there, you're pointing to where they untie the loop. And if you want to know who Norman is, go to my tape about who is John Norman. Sounds like I'm advertising a lot of stuff, but the point is I've made tapes on each one of these. Quote, two gestures he didn't make in quick succession. The first one indicating left shoulder where I'd just been tunicked in that fashion, been the disrobing loop. Okay, put your clothes back on, please, so I don't get myself in trouble. And we'll go to the next one. It's kind of sad, but I've got to watch what YouTube does so they don't come hunting for me. Thank you. All right, next one. Next one is going to be, doggone it. Let me get rid of this and let's move on. Next one's going to be crawl. Now, crawl's pretty cool because it's actually in a lot of the collars. But if you don't have it, excuse me, again, the location of where to get all these gestures can be found in the one I did on basic positions. Four fingers pointing on the ground means crawl. So you open up your fingers and basically make a motion of crawling. And again, let me show you the quote. There we go. I gestured as she returned the whip and then briefly placing four fingers downward on the arm of a curled chair. The whip would be returned in the manner of a naked slave. She crawled. Okay? So she took off. We can't do that. I didn't have her do that because I was afraid to kick my ass off of YouTube. But basically, place four fingers downward on the arm of a chair or just four fingers downward moving, and that'll be crawl. Leading position. Okay, here we go. Quote, I looked at the girl. I nodded to her. She did so. I held my left palm open at the waist. She stiffened and looked at me angrily. I opened and closed my left hand once. I saw her training Goring customs had been thorough. Now notice there's two things going on. One, the master knows these girls really good because she knows this one. But she never thought the such a gesture would be used to her. She came beside me and a bit beside me, crouching her head down deeply. I fastened my hand in her hair. She winced, Wimlin her helpless in this. Now, what this is a position where she comes forward, bows forward, and offers her hair to the master. The master takes the hair and drags her in that position. Okay? Remember when we did the basic positions, so leading position is different than position hair. While the leading position, the hair is grabbed so you can lead. In the hair position, you're offering his hair as a napkin. So if you've got the hair position in your deal, it's him using it to wipe his face with your hair. And some of you girls are going to go, ew. But in this particular case, you're bowing forward, offering your hair as a way for him to grab and grab your ass. Okay? So it takes the left hand at the side, closes in a grabbing motion. Then she knows to offer her head for you to drag her. You say, how primitive? Well, that's gore. Next one. Point fingers. When the free lifts a finger and points in one direction, it simply means go there. Every child knows that, so it's no big deal. And then Renegade's a gore. I glance up with a casual motion of my fingers in a way she should hurry to the kitchen. So you just point, off she goes. So that's probably the easiest position out of all these for teach your girl and to know. Now, what I'm going to suggest, no master's going to use all these. You just aren't, and no girl's going to know them all. Pick the ones you really, really like that I would say are cool, what I call the cool factor, and use them. Rather than say heel, do the motion for heel. Okay? Rather than have a do nadu, point your fingers down, spread them. They know to go to nadu. Point your fingers down, fingers together. They know to go to tower. These are what I call the cool positions. They're used both in BDSM and gore, and they make you look really good. And the girls look well trained when you use them. All right, Suka. You ready with this, Sani? The silent command for this is a snap fingers and a single finger pointing to the ground. Let me give you the quote. Yep, here we go. And if they should snap their fingers and point to the floor, I asked, then I would swiftly lie before him as a slave, rogue of gore. Now, I think, if I remember correctly, this is a position which a woman does where she's offering her body to the master. It's basically getting ready to do whatever you want. It's called Suka, S-U-L-A, Sula. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. And all you do is you snap your fingers, point at the rug, point to the floor, or point at the rug or wherever, and she basically makes herself available. Again, a cool position. And like I said, I would select some for your slaves, train them in these, because you're not going to do all these, and neither of your slaves going to want to do all of them. So just pick a few. Come and go. Go ahead and go back up, Shawnee. Put yourself back up. Thank you. She's so good at that. Her yoga is really paying off. Come go. The silent command for come go is clap your hands twice. The first means come, the second means to go. Now, I've seen this command used by masters in gore. I love it. So if a master just emotes, claps hand, she's to come. Okay? Beats putting out your finger and doing a pull motion. You just clap your hand once, she comes. If you clap twice, she goes. Of course, you can also point your finger in the direction. We just discussed that. So let's take a look at that in the books. Then Katuk, forgive me, I can't pronounce this. Katuchik. sat back, clapped his hands together sharply twice. Clap, clap. Bringing the she-slave, he said, Domance of Gore, Book 4, page 44. When Chiron had tired watching the dancers, he clapped his hand twice. With a dissonant jangle of their ankle bells, they fled from the rooms. I've even seen this one in movies. Clap, clap, out you go. Outlaw Cigar, Book 2, page 229. So clap twice, they leave. I like that even better than pointing. Now, this is again almost self-intuitive, but I'm going to do the command anyway. Okay. The silent command is simple. The master taps his lips with his fingers. When silenced, you may only whimper. You can't speak with less. And trust me, you're going to irritate the hell out of a master if you're sitting there whimpering. Unless given permission, unless you have with a harsh permission. One whimper is to say yes, two whimpers say no. Okay, there you go. Did you catch that? If he puts his finger up, all you can do is yes and no. One whimper says yes, two whimpers is for no. What do you want? Whimper, whimper. Okay. Quote. I cautioned her to silence, holding my fingers across my lips. This is a very natural gesture. I don't know if the gesture is considered a Gorian gesture, or had an independent development, or specifically somebody in the remote past had an Earth origin. There are many Gorian gestures, of course, some of which are very similar to Earth gestures, some of which are not. Another way of warning an individual's silence, incidentally, is to touch the fingers twice lightly to the lips. The origin of that gesture, as far as I know, is uniquely Gorian. Players of Gore, page 20, book 20, page 167. Okay, and another one. He smiled, put his fingers to his lips, a gesture that warned me that I was not to speak, a gesture which I was familiar from my own cultural background. I didn't know if it was native to him as well. He smiled and put his fingers to his lips, a gesture that warned me I was not to speak, and which I was familiar from my cultural background from Earth. Witnesses of Gore, book 26. This is this one I've not seen, and it'd be funny as hell to emote. Another way to command silence is when a master throws a blanket over you. Now, this would be funny to do, but I have a suspicion it's not done often. Quote, then I threw a second blanket, the top over her, covering completely. When a blanket or cloak or covering of any sort is thrown over a slave, she may not speak or rise. She must remain as she is, silent, until the master or some free man lifts the covering away. Notice it doesn't say your master does this. It just says that if it is done to you, you're not to speak or rise. It doesn't say crap about it being your master. Juice. When this command is open, you're ordered to get ready for master sex. Sorry, no vibrators included. Quote, before he had taken the stack from his shelf, he ordered me to the floor of the utility room. To my back, on the dusty boards. Lie here and juice, he told me. Waste no time about it. I lay there and briefly shut my eyes and thought of might and power and my helpless slavery, and that I was ready almost in a immediate moment to receive his lie, and he had me swiftly. Kajir of Gore. Yield. Slaves cannot come without permission. This command is issued when you're allowed to, when you. Slaves cannot come without permission. This command is issued when you're allowed to release. Don't take this for granted. You're given pleasure. Now, I need to start using this. I had totally forgotten about this one. But rather than say go ahead and come, you just say yield. Okay? If you don't give that command, she's not to come. Remember, you're not to basically, if he doesn't allow you to come, you don't come. Quote, then after a time at last, she permitted her slaves yielding, and in it she cried out her slavery in submission to men. Specifically, he was to her master of the evening. Okay, so basically, yield is the command you do when she's ready to come. Harta. This verbal command tells the slave to be faster. Don't ever think to say that master is clearly mean you're never ever think to say that to a master is clearly mean you're trying to give him an order. This indicates the slaves to act quickly and without delay. Harta here. Quote, Harta, the image said to the girls, Harta, the expression is faster, faster, beast of gore, page 191. That is the last command, but Harta is a way to say faster, and I have heard masters use it.
That's all, folks.